Hello out there YouTube, this is Zouthus, also known as Thrash Till Death, and it's been a long time since my last video I made here. The reason for that is liveactionanime.org, the site I was making all these reviews for back in the last few years, has basically finally gone under. The site has a long checkered history. I first joined it way back in 2004, which might as well be the Cretaceous period as far as the internet is concerned. And we had problems with activity for a long time. And once Dragon Ball Evolution came out and basically turned out to be the worst film in recent memory, that was basically the final nail in the coffin. So any material I had to review essentially dried up. But now I want to get back to it, and I'm going to be making these videos on my own terms from now on. I've started up a new blog. This video will serve as the inaugural post, so it's called thethrashersworld.blogspot.com. I've included a link to it in the description, so go and check it out. I'm going to be carrying on my reviews of anime, but I'll also be talking about films, books, video games, whatever captures my interest, whatever is in the sort of pop culture zeitgeist, so go and check it out, it'll be great. And just to sort of get the ball rolling on this new project of mine, I want to review a series I've been watching over the summer. That is Season 2 of Code Geass, Lelouch of the Rebellion. I was a major fan of Code Geass's first season. I reviewed that back around Christmas time. It was ridiculous, it was silly, it was completely over the top, didn't know the meaning of the word subtlety, and it was fucking awesome. It was a boot up the arse of the whole mecha genre. The action was great, had a massive cast of colourful characters, and every new episode moved the plot and barreling forward in new directions. This was the sort of just injection of adrenaline that you watch anime for to begin with. Just the sort of show that doesn't come along nearly as often as it should. And if anything, it ended on what must be one of the most sadistic cliffhangers at the end of the first season. I can't think of another work of fiction that ended on a note as tantalising as the end of Code Geass's first season. So obviously, me and probably a whole load of other UK-based anime fans were waiting with bated breath for the start of the second season. So it came out around July, August time, and obviously I was snatching it up as soon as I had the opportunity. And does it live up to the standards the first season set? And having watched the whole thing and had time to look back on it, I'd have to say no it doesn't. It's still an excellent series, and I'd still advise everyone who has even a passing interest in anime to go out and watch it, because for better or for worse, there really is almost nothing out there like Code Geass. But the second season starts to bring to the forefront some of the problems that the first season managed to work well in spite of. A year has passed roughly since the events of Season 1, and Lelouch, it turns out, has had his memory wiped. He's been used by his father, the Emperor of Britannia, as a kind of a piece of bait to set a trap for CC. His father, as it turns out, has a Geass, and he's able to alter people's memories, and he set up this elaborate facade for Lelouch and his friends to occupy while he makes his move. But obviously the Black Knights get back to Lelouch before his father does. Lelouch regains his memories thanks to CC, and he re-establishes himself as Zero, the leader of the Black Knights, and continues leading the uprising against Britannia. And at least for the first half of the second series, it's business as usual. There's still loads of mind games being played between Lelouch and his various political rivals, all sorts of political backstabbing and conniving between various factions. Brilliant mecha on mecha action. It's basically a return to the formula that made the first season such a huge success, and right up until about the arc where Lelouch is trying to forge an alliance with the Chinese Federation, it's incredible, as before. But it's around that point that the whole massive edifice that is this series starts to kind of unravel. See, the first season of Code Geass was almost a success in spite of itself. The plot cut so many corners, and there were so many plot lines operating in tandem, that the whole thing should have just degenerated into a confusing mess within a few episodes. But it managed to carry on in spite of itself because the plot just moved forward at such a frantic pace that it didn't give you time to sort of start to scrutinize it and start to pick apart the aspects of it that didn't make sense. But by roughly the second half of R2, the second season, all these plot lines finally start to reach critical mass. There's so many characters to keep track of, and so many different plot lines operating all at the same time, that the momentum just basically drains out of the show, and it has to start pulling a lot of rabbits out of a lot of hats in order to keep the viewers interested. By the end of the series, it starts to feel like every episode it's showing could have served as a serviceable climax to the whole series, and yet it keeps going for 5 episodes even after everything seems to have been resolved, to the point that new conflicts are being introduced and then resolved just before we even have time to introduce new ones. The whole thing just sort of degenerates into a hodgepodge, and by the time we actually get to the end, it seems like we're watching a completely different conflict than the one we started watching the show for to begin with. So yeah, by the time we get to the climax of the second season, it doesn't have any sort of the momentum and the intensity that made the climax of the first season so incredible. Even though all the aspects that make this show superficially fun are still there, Lelouch is still playing all his mind games with his opponents, and those are always fun to see play out. The various tricks and elaborate uses of the Geass, the revelations about various characters' backstories. The action is still incredible, as is the animation, which is just about the highest standard you can expect of a TV series. Although I have to say, this season, the first season was guilty of this as well, but this season also, I'm not a fan of this series' art design in general. The character designs, obviously, the sort of clamp, unbelievably anemic, noodle-thin people. You either like those or you don't, but the whole series has this unbearably extravagant, opulent sort of approach to mechs, architecture, costumes. Pretty much everything in the series is much more extravagant and opulent than it needs to be, and it leads to a lot of needlessly busy shots. It could have been trimmed down quite considerably, that sort of excess. But yeah, it's still an entertaining show. You can't fault it for that. It's never boring, but which is more than can be said for a lot of other anime series. It never gives you the user time to catch their breath. And again, I'd have to say that in spite of all the series' flaws and in spite of falling apart towards the end of it, I do advise pretty much anyone who's interested in anime to watch this, because you do get the impression when you're watching it that this is more than just another 26 or 52 episode series. This is actually a landmark. This is sort of a game changer for anime as a whole. For better or for worse, Code Geass is important, and you haven't really seen anything like it before. So yeah, for everything that's wrong with it, and stuff does go wrong, I still say check it out. So that's pretty much my opinion summed up. Yeah, I'm going to be getting back into the swing of things with the videos properly in the next few weeks. So yeah, carry on watching my channel, carry on looking at thethrashersworld.blogspot.com. I'll be seeing you again soon. Thank you everyone. Bye bye.